Hello, everyone. Well, there you go. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Kris. Okay. I got a warm soda. Get your pull-apart Twizzlers, right? Let's get back into this, man. Let's go. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I should have to tell you, but this is the Kennedy assassination inside the book depository. Just, in case.
No one knows exactly how many spectators were in or near Dealey Plaza at the time of the assassination. Well over 200 were at some point questioned by a combination of authorities, journalists and others. Attempts have been made to consolidate the various accounts, and it's clear from all such attempts that the majority of witnesses heard 3 shots. What's a bit less clear is the source of the explosions. The gunman was either placed in the vicinity of the book depository, marked here in red, or an area west of the building, marked in green, known as the grassy knoll. But as you can see from these pie charts, the assessment of earwitness testimony is highly susceptible to bias. It's a surprisingly subjective exercise that can lead to widely different results. Nevertheless, there were a substantial number of witnesses who pointed to the grassy knoll located roughly here, and many of them were scattered throughout the plaza. To give you some examples, August Campbell was standing near the front entrance of the book depository, yet believed the shots had come from the grassy knoll. Meanwhile, Marilyn Sitzman was standing on the grassy knoll, yet believed the shots had come from the book depository. Standing beside Campbell was a woman named Geraldine Reed, who believed the shots had come from the book depository. Standing by the curb in front of Sitzman was William Newman, who believed the shots had come from the grassy knoll. One might therefore conclude that there must have been 2 assassins, one in the book depository and one on the grassy knoll. Indeed, countless authors and even a congressional investigation have done precisely that. Now, the scope of this video is not nearly exhaustive enough for me to attempt any conclusions regarding a second gunman, but I do want to leave you with this. You might have seen these unlabeled blue slices before. Well, that's how many witnesses heard gunshots coming from multiple directions. That is to say, next to no one did. All the shots came either from the east or west, not both.
Mr. Campbell believed the noise came from away from the book depository. This illusion, he explained, may have been due to the sound bouncing off the building and other objects in the vicinity.
August Campbell was far from alone in being deceived by the pronounced echoes of the gunshots.
Where did the noises or shots sound to you like they came from?
It was hard to tell because they had an echo, There was actually 2 explosions with each one. There was the shot and then the echo from it, so it was hard to tell. There was too much reverberation. There was an echo which gave me a sound all over. In other words, that square is it had a sound all over. The sounds came.
I was going to say that where the shots, the book depository, you have all those other buildings nearby, so it could sound like if they're coming from here, you have the sound hitting here, bouncing here. I mean, it really could just. I've never been there. I've said again. I wasn't there when it happened. I wasn't there. Getting awful defensive there, Kris. So, with all the buildings there, yeah, you don't know what buildings are over here because obviously it doesn't show. But the sound could bounce off. You don't know how fast all this stuff is happening. Well, I mean, you do know how fast it was. It was like 5 seconds or whatever. We're not talking about that.
The sounds came either from up against the school depository building or near the mouth of the triple underpass. I had worked in this watchtower for some 10 or 12 years and was there during the time they were renovating the school depository building, and had noticed at that time the similarity of sounds occurring in either of those 2 locations. There is a reverberation which takes place from either location.
This auditory illusion was not a fluke. Not only did the buildings surrounding Dealey Plaza act as an echo chamber, but even experienced hunters can struggle to pinpoint the number and origin of gunshots by sound alone. Here's a quote from a book on that very topic, published a few years before the assassination.
Little credence should be put in what anyone says about a shot or even the number of shots. These things coming upon a person suddenly are generally extremely inaccurately recorded in their memory. One of the authors asked one deer hunter last fall how many shots another hunter less than 100 yards away had fired. The answer was 5. Actually, only 2 shots were fired.
Employees in the book Depository were no less confused about the gunshots than the spectators outside. To give you some examples, on the first floor, Eddie Piper heard 3 shots that appeared to come from inside the building. On the third floor, Edna Case and Sandra Ellison heard nothing. Meanwhile, Stephen Wilson on the same floor heard 3 shots, came from the west. On the fourth floor, Elsie Dorman, multiple shots came from this building across the street. Victoria Adams, 3 shots from the west. Mary Hollis, 3 shots inside the building. But some employees not only heard the shots, but could literally feel the explosions shake the building.
Could you tell where the shots were coming from?
Yes, sir. They came from inside the building.
How do you know that?
Because the building vibrated from the result of the explosion coming in.
Did you know they were shots at the time?
Yes, sir. They sounded almost like cannon shots. They were so terrific.
Much like Geneva Hine on the second floor, Bonnie Williams could feel the explosions up on the fifth. It sounded to Williams as though the shots had been fired from the floor above. His colleague, James Jarman, initially thought the shots had come from somewhere below, but then changed his mind and agreed with Williams. Harold Norman, meanwhile, heard far more than gunshots.
Just after the president passed by, I heard a shot. And several seconds later, I heard 2 more shots. I knew that the shots had come from directly above me, and I could hear the expended cartridges fall to the floor. I could also hear the bolt action of the rifle.
The explosions shook the building, and a piece of loose plaster or dirt was dislodged from the ledge above and struck Williams in the head. Meanwhile, spectators on the streets below could see them leaning out the windows, looking up at the 6th floor.
I just looked straight up ahead of me, which would have been looking at the school book depository, and I noticed 2 black men in a window, straining to see directly above them, and my eyes followed right up to the window above them, and I saw the rifle, or what looked like a rifle.
Frightened and somewhat entranced by the pandemonium outside, the 3 men remained on the 5th floor for several minutes. Meanwhile, the apparent assassin upstairs was now in a race against time.
Did you hear anything upstairs at all?
I don't know what I would do in that situation. If there's a shooter and I'm looking out the window and I can see a rifle, man, I don't know if, I mean, look, they're shooting the president. I don't think they're going to stick around and, want to split a cigar, but I got to believe that they don't want to be seen. And if they stop shooting and I'm wanting to escape and I hear the shots stop, man, I'm scared to leave where I am. Because I don't want to be running out and run into them and then they pop off another shot and maybe it's just a gut shot, but it's enough to take me down in for a few hours. So I don't know in that situation what I would do. I don't know if I would just stay and hide, or I have no idea what I would do in that situation. Because everything inside is saying, run, get the hell out of the building. But everything else is saying, what if I run into the shooter? Now, there's some people who be like, I'd run. If I ran into the shooter, man, me and him, mano a mano. Yeah, well, he's just shown you what he's capable of with a bolt-action rifle. You're a hero? Come on, man. I don't know what I would probably... Fear would probably make me hide or just like get down and for 5 minutes, probably what they did. I would just freeze for 5 minutes. Yeah.
No, sir. I didn't hear anything.
Any footsteps?
No, sir. Probably. The reason we didn't hear anything is because, after the shots, we were running too, and that was making a lot of noise.
Why didn't you go up to the 6th floor?
I really don't know.
Hold on. It's not your job to run up to the 6th floor, Mr. Questioner. How come you didn't show your ass up and run up to the 6th floor? Shut up, stupid. It's nobody's job to run up to the 6th floor. Don't you go up to the 6th floor? Why don't you shut up? Don't you eat? Eat? Okay. What I meant to say was, why doesn't this person asking the questions go ahead and take a little beverage of bleach? Why don't you go up to the 6th floor? Why? So somebody else could possibly get shot? What an idiot.
Just never did think about it. Maybe it's because we were frightened.
When the shooting began, motorcycle policeman Marion Baker had just made a right turn from Main Street to Houston. Baker recognized the explosions as gunfire and could see a flock of pigeons fluttering above 2 buildings further up ahead. Baker made a split-second decision and headed for the book Depository. Once inside, he was greeted by Roy Truly. Truly directed Baker to the elevators, but neither was available. He pressed the button while shouting up the elevator shaft for someone upstairs to close the gate. No response. Instead, they began running up the stairs.
As I came out to the 2nd floor there, Mr. Truly was ahead of me, and as I come out, I was kind of scanning, the rooms, and I caught a glimpse of this man walking away from this. I happened to see him through this window in this door. I don't know how come I saw him, but I had a glimpse of him coming down there.
Where was he coming from, do you know?
No, sir. All I seen of him was a glimpse of him go away from me.
What did you do?
I hollered at him at that time and said, "Come here." He turned and walked right straight back to me.
What did you say to him?
I didn't get anything out of him. Mr. Truly had come up to my side here, and I turned to Mr. Truly and I says, "Do you know this man? Does he work here?" And he said, "Yes." And I turned immediately and went on out up the stairs.
The man whom Baker and Truly encountered in the 2nd floor lunchroom was none other than Lee Harvey Oswald. The encounter was brief, lasting no more than 30 seconds. Oswald appeared calm and failed to evoke suspicion, so Truly and Baker left him in the lunchroom and proceeded up the stairs. They spent some time searching the roof, but there was no assassin to be found. Down by the main entrance, Geraldine Reed was still trying to process what had just occurred. She decided to return to her office on the 2nd floor of the building. Here, about 2 minutes after the shooting, Reed became the last known person to have seen Oswald inside the book Depository.
I kept walking and I looked up and Oswald was coming in the back door of the office. I met him by the time I passed my desk by several feet, and I told him, I said, "Oh, the president has been shot, but maybe they didn't hit him." He mumbled something to me. I kept walking. He did too. I didn't pay any attention to what he said because I had no thoughts of him having any connection with the shooting at all, because he was very calm.
Oswald is then presumed to have taken the front stairs and, on his way out the main entrance, encountered someone looking for a phone. There are at least 2 candidates for who this person might have been, but Oswald seems to have pointed out the phone inside the building before blending into the chaos outside. He was next observed boarding a bus a few blocks east on Elm.
This is the one part that always gets me. 2 to 3 minutes after the assassination. How can you shoot someone 2-3 times and then, I mean, he left the rifle, but just he didn't walk down the steps. They found him on the 2nd floor, so he dropped 4 floors in 2 minutes. To have gotten down there, went down the steps, and then walked through. Now, he might have been crossing over, and then he saw that guy, so he just started walking away from him. But how are you not out of breath? How are you not sweating? How are you not showing signs of like adrenaline? You know what I mean? I can't. That's one of the things that I just can't fathom. I can get winded just running down my stairs. All right. So I don't understand how you. It's not me though. So.
Nearly 4 months after the assassination, Truly and Baker participated in a crude reconstruction of the shooting to time their movements. The experiment was repeated twice. On the first attempt, it took them 1 minute and 30 seconds to reach the second floor lunchroom. Then 1 minute and 15 seconds. These time trials were primarily conducted to determine whether Oswald could have fired the shots from the 6th floor and still made it down to the second in time for his encounter with Truly and Baker. After all, if there wasn't enough time, Oswald could not have been the assassin. A bunch of different routes were tested, and while Oswald could theoretically have taken one of the elevators or even the fire escape, in practice there wasn't enough time.
You do not think the assassin used any of the elevators at any time to get from the 6th to the 2nd floor?
You mean after the shooting? No, sir. He just could not, because those elevators, I saw myself, were both on the 5th floor. They were both even.
The only other means of descent was the stairway. A stand-in for the gunman trotted down from the 6th floor to...
That one guy, the guy eating his lunch on the 6th floor, he probably took the elevator down to the 5th floor to be with the buddies. So if he didn't close that gate, then that elevator... But there's 2 elevators. Okay. So he's on the 6th floor. Those other guys are on the bottom floor. They get in the elevator. They go up to the 5th. The one guy gets up from the 6th, goes on the elevator. He goes to the 5th. They probably didn't close the gates because they were going to watch the president. 5 minutes. I mean, not even 5 minutes. He would leave, then they would jump in the elevator and go back to whatever they were doing. So those guys, those 3 guys, are the reason why those elevators were locked at 5. So he had to take steps. And he would have had to have known that.
To the second in 1 minute and 18 seconds. Then, at a slightly faster pace, in 1 minute and 14 seconds. There was just enough time. It's therefore possible that Oswald stopped on the 2nd floor, perhaps upon hearing Truly shouting up the elevator shaft, and attempted to hide in the lunchroom mere seconds ahead of Truly and Baker's arrival. But it's not quite that simple, because Oswald was not the only person using the stairway to escape the building.
This is getting interesting. This is getting interesting. Is the chapter over? Yep. Okay. We're going to stop it there. This one's a little shorter, but the last one was a little bit longer, so it kind of evens it out. We're about halfway. The last video will clearly be a little bit longer. Yeah, the last one will just be these 2. This is getting good. 46. Damn, that's a little long, isn't it? You know what? We're gonna go ahead and do this chapter, because the next chapter is a little long and I don't want to break that one up. Hey, I lied. Special edition, hot off the presses, For everyone else who canceled out because they're like, oh, hey, the video's over. For you true people, special chapter for you. Let's do it.
As previously mentioned, Victoria Adams watched the motorcade from an office on the 4th floor of the book Depository. Within 30 seconds of the shooting, Adams ran down the stairs to the 1st floor along with her colleague, Sandra Stiles.
When you got to the bottom of the 1st floor, did you see anyone there as you entered the 1st floor from the stairway?
Yes, sir.
Who did you see?
Mr. William Shelley and Billy Lovelady.
Now, what did you do after you encountered Mr. Shelley and Mr. Lovelady?
I said I believed the president was shot.
Do you remember what they said?
Nothing.
Then what did you do?
I proceeded out to the Houston Street dock.
There are 2 significant problems with Adams' account. The first being that she and Stiles supposedly left the 4th floor within 30 seconds of the shooting and then ran down the stairs to the 1st. This would place them in approximate sync with Oswald, descending from the 6th floor to the 2nd.
Now, as you were running down the stairs, did you encounter anyone?
Not during the actual running down the stairs. No, sir.
Did you hear anyone using the stairs?
No, sir.
But okay, perhaps Oswald was a few flights above, and his footsteps were drowned out by their own.
I was going to say, maybe Oswald came through, heard the door close, and they're, oh my goodness, the president's been shot, oh, did you see it, did you? And so, instead of him being at a quick pace, he's going down the steps, but they're probably, they could be panicking, they could be talking, they're not paying attention to what else is hearing. So Oswald was just using that, and maybe he was going faster. Possible.
Would mean that Stiles and Adams left the 4th floor mere seconds ahead of Oswald's arrival, reached the ground floor mere seconds ahead of Roy Trulley and Marion Baker's ascent, before encountering William Shelley and Billy Lovelady right about here. But this is when problem number 2 makes an entrance. When the president was shot, Shelley and Lovelady stood on the front steps of the book Depository. They spent several minutes roaming about outside before returning to the building. And that's the problem. How did Stiles and Adams encounter Shelley and Lovelady within seconds of the shooting if it took them several minutes to return to the building?
Who did you see on the 1st floor after returning to the book Depository?
I saw a girl, but I wouldn't swear to it. It's Vicky.
What is her full name?
I wouldn't know.
Vicky Adams?
I believe so.
Would you say it was Vicky you saw?
I couldn't swear.
Where was the girl?
I don't remember what place she was, but I remember seeing a girl and she was talking to Shelley or saw Shelley or something.
Shelley could recall no such incident. Presuming that Lovelady was correct and Shelley had a lapse of memory, it's possible their encounter with Stiles and Adams occurred minutes rather than seconds after the shooting. After all, Adams could have been mistaken. This scenario implies that Oswald made his escape, Trulley and Baker went upstairs, and then several minutes later, Stiles and Adams left the building. But it's not quite that simple. Watching the motorcade alongside Stiles and Adams was their supervisor, Dorothy Garner.
Miss Garner stated this morning that after Miss Adams went downstairs, Miss Garner, saw Mr. Trulley and the policeman come up.
Not only does this account corroborate that of Adams, meaning they left within seconds, not minutes, but it implies that Garner was in a position to observe the stairway from somewhere on the 4th floor. In spite of this, Garner made no mention of seeing Oswald scampering down the stairs between Stiles and Adams' departure and Trulley and Baker's arrival. What makes this conflict so difficult to resolve is that neither Stiles nor Garner were called to testify. We have but a few brief statements of what they witnessed. All we know about Sandra Stiles is that she went down the stairs with Adams. Did it happen within seconds of the shooting? We don't know. Did she see or hear anyone else while running down the stairs? We don't know. Did she encounter Shelley and Lovelady on the 1st floor? We don't know. Authorities appear to have presumed Adams unreliable and then ignored the witnesses who could have easily refuted or confirmed that presumption. A simple reenactment like the one granted Trulley and Baker could have gone a long way to resolve this issue. But that never happened. Many decades after the assassination, author Barry Ernest was able to track down Sandra Stiles, Dorothy Garner, and Victoria Adams. Stiles confirmed that she and Adams left the window within seconds of the shooting, but she doesn't explicitly say they left the 4th floor within seconds. In any case, as they moved quickly down the stairs, she heard no footfall apart from their own. Garner confirmed she never witnessed the descent of Oswald, despite seeing Truly and Baker heading upstairs. Adams went a bit further and accused investigators of tampering with their testimony.
I'm beginning to wonder if the Shelley and Lovelady encounter was inserted into my testimony later. I remember saying to a fairly big black man inside the building, right near the loading dock, right after I got down the stairs, that I thought the president may have been shot.
Sandra Stiles apparently told Ernest something similar.
A few people were milling around on the 1st floor. One was a black man. Shelley and Lovelady were definitely not on the 1st floor when we got there.
The only black employees who could have possibly made it to the rear stairway in time were Carl Jones, Roy Lewis, Eddie Piper, and Troy West. What you see here are their approximate positions at the time of the shooting, but during the seconds and minutes that followed, only Piper is known to have paid any attention to the stairs in the back. As soon as the shooting began, Piper crossed the 1st floor to get a better view of a clock. He remained in roughly this location until he observed Truly and Baker running up the stairs.
Had anybody come?
I didn't realize there was all this all of this information.
Had anybody come down the steps before Truly and Baker went up the steps?
No, sir.
Did Vicky Adams come down before Truly and Baker went up the steps?
No, sir. No, sir. She didn't do it.
Remember James Romack and George Rackley? I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you don't, there's like 100 different names to keep track of, but they were the ones who failed to spot anyone leaving the book depository via the rear entrance for several minutes after the shooting. Well, the thing is, according to both Stiles and Adams, they left the book depository via the rear entrance upon reaching the 1st floor. So if Romack and Rackley are to be believed, then once again, the descent of Stiles and Adams must have taken place minutes rather than seconds after the shooting. Not only that, but when Sandra Stiles was contacted by another researcher, she apparently expressed great uncertainty regarding the stairwell descent and thought it might in fact have occurred a couple of minutes after the shooting.
To be fair, this happened in what? 60... When was he said? 64? 65? 64. Okay, so this was 64, and I thought it said that she was interviewed in 2008. How many of you can remember minute details about something that happened 44 years ago? Okay, I'm probably not talking to a lot of people that age, but how many of you, 20 years old, like me, how many of you can remember something in minute details that happened when you were 10 years old? I mean, time passes and just starts, it's like your brain just starts filling up with stuff and it just starts saying, okay, well, this isn't important anymore. Get rid of it.
I don't know what to make of all this. The conspiracy crowd will, of course, amplify the more suspicious elements, while those who support the official narrative will focus on that which discredits Adams. But ultimately, we don't know the exact timeline of events. It's difficult enough to pin down the minute-by-minute chronology. Once you get down to seconds, there's a lot of guesswork at play.
Yeah.
The time trials by Truly and Baker gives us a rough estimate, but that's not cast in stone. They could have easily been a bit faster, a bit slower. So too could have Shelley, Lovelady, Garner, Stiles, Adams, and Oswald.
Would you say that the reconstruction that we did on March the 20th was a minimum or a maximum time?
Oh, I would say that would be the minimum time. We did everything that I did that day, and this would be the minimum time, because I'm sure that it took me a little longer.
I must also mention that we don't know much about the layout of the 4th floor beyond this crude schematic. If the other floors are any indication, much of this space was occupied by bookshelves and tall stacks of boxes. This is significant because Dorothy Garner never actually saw Stiles and Adams enter the stairway. She only heard footsteps of what she presumed to be them running down the stairs.
Oh, so it could have been Oswald. So it could have been Oswald then. That's what I'm picking up here. This next one will be all by itself. This next chapter will be all by itself because it runs, it'll be a 16, 17 minute chapter. And then see, this is what happens when you stick around, folks. The others, they're gone. They left. That's 11 minutes. That's going to be a 16-minuter. I don't want this last one to be so short. Maybe I'll throw something else on at the very end. Something about the Kennedy assassination. Just a... Oh. What if I try to find the actual assassination and I throw that clip on at the very end? It'll be the very last thing. You don't have to stick around and watch it if you don't want to. I understand. Trust me. But I'll throw that clip on. Educational purposes, clearly. Okay. So we're going to end this. See? Everyone else, they left. They're thinking they were doing this chapter tomorrow. They're going to show up. They're going to be like, what did we miss? And we're going to say you should have stuck around. You fools. Right? Right? Okay. You're lucky you're cute. Alright. We're going to go ahead and end this here. I have a thanks button on the channel. You could donate. All donations are appreciated. You can request videos. You don't have to, but you can. Oh, no, the other one's coming over. Oh, jealous. And I have a subscribe button. You can click on that. No one else has those things. It's just brand new for me. Thumbs up. Go ahead and give it a thumbs up. That helps me. If you don't want to donate, give it a thumbs up because that helps. You know, you kind of offset one for the other. And if you want to give a thumbs down, that's fine. I don't understand why you would. But if you want to, there is this really good machine that I've been using on some people. Kind of, it's like a little shaver. Kind of helps get the shave down really good for you. It's called an electric sander. And I just fire that thing up and get some good decent grit on there and just sand your face away. So this is what I'm dealing with. All right. Well, we got 2 more of these bad boys to go. So,